An incredible journey. Gunslinger discovers his bride's surprising past. A dark secret revealed. Jack Lawson felt the weight of the world shift as he walked into the local diner hand in hand with his wife, Clara. The place buzzed with familiar voices and the enticing aroma of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon. Today was supposed to be a celebration, Clara meeting his family for the first time. As he settled into the booth, pride surged through him. She radiated beauty and warmth, a perfect match for a man like him. But just as laughter erupted, the door creaked open, and in strolled a stranger, casting a long shadow over their moment. Jack's heart quickened. Clara's face paled, her vibrant eyes flickering with fear, hinting at a storm lurking beneath her composed surface. He could sense the sudden shift. Chatter faded as the stranger's presence unsettled the air like a brewing storm. Was it a ghost from her past? The anxiety began to coil within him. The diner felt smaller, the air thicker, filled with unspoken words that churned in his gut. He reached for her hand, but she flinched, and for the first time, he saw what dark secrets could do to a heart that was meant to be open. Who is he? Jack's voice was steady, but questions whirled in his mind, pulling him from the vibrant colors of his joy into a murky abyss of uncertainty. Clara hesitated, and in that moment, time stretched. He yearned for the woman he'd fallen in love with, the laughter, the warmth of shared dreams. But she was slipping away like grains of sand, replaced by shadows of her past. As lunch hour unfolded, a stark realization hit Jack hard when Clara finally spoke the words he dreaded, revealing ties to a notorious outlaw gang that had plagued their town. It felt like betrayal slicing through him, a tear in the fabric of their new life together. His hands clenched the table's edge, the rough wood digging into his skin as he wrestled with emotions. Loyalty tugged at him, demanding he protect his family from the very woman he swore to cherish. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days that followed were a swirling storm of confrontation and revelation. Jack found himself meeting the old sheriff, a man steeped in wisdom and scars that matched his own. As the sheriff forced her to reckon with her past, a flicker of defiance ignited within Clara. Jack felt the bonds of his belief system being challenged. This was not just about loyalty to his family, but understanding the fragility of love. With each day, Jack navigated the heavy waters of anguish where loyalty fought against love. What if he turned his back on Clara, the very woman who stirred his spirit? What did honoring his family's legacy mean in the face of a love that felt newly fragile? As Clara began to embrace the strength within her, Jack felt the ground beneath him shifting. Unsure of his footing, their once clear path became a winding road of despair, only made murkier by the return of that mysterious stranger, his presence hanging like an ominous cloud, poised to strike. Jack stared into the uncertainty of their future, wrestling with the impending truth of what lay ahead. The diner door swung open once again. The stranger reappeared, Jack's breath caught in his throat, the weight of unspoken decisions pressing down as he braced himself for the impending storm. Would this encounter be the final blow to the fragile love they'd built? Or could it offer an unexpected chance at redemption? The questions echoed in his mind, resonating deeply as he faced the precipice of a life-altering decision yet to play out. Jack's heart raced as the stranger entered the diner, a familiar but unwelcome figure that threatened to unearth buried regrets. The man's icy demeanor sent a chill through Jack, his past looming like a specter over their fragile new life. Clara's eyes darted toward the door, her expression a canvas of contradictions, fear and determination mixed in a heart-wrenching dance. With a palpable tension that thickened the air, the man approached their booth, ignoring the disapproving glares of patrons who sensed something was amiss. Jack's instincts shouted at him, the old sheriff's words echoing in his head. You need to protect what's yours. But was it his love or the idealized vision of their life together that he was so desperate to safeguard? "Clara," the stranger called out, an unsettling familiarity lingering in his tone. "Why don't you come outside for a moment? We have some unfinished business to take care of." Jack's gut twisted as he realized the implications of that statement, the shadows of Clara's past rushing back to envelop him. "You'll do no such thing," he interjected, his voice low but firm. He felt the resolve building inside him, an unfamiliar blend of fear and protective fury. The waitress froze mid-service, her notepad at the ready, waiting for the unfolding drama. Clara's expression was unreadable as she turned to Jack, apprehension mixing with a longing for understanding. "Jack, please." Her voice trailed off, laced with a vulnerability that tugged at the corners of his heart. She was stepping into unfamiliar territory, choosing vulnerability over silence. Yet the clock was ticking, and Jack was aware that every moment mattered. He needed to decide how to confront this disruption. "Clara, we need to talk about this. You don't owe him anything." The declaration felt empowering, though his insides churned with uncertainty. The stranger chuckled, devoid of warmth, leaning in slightly. "She's right. There are things she still needs to tell you. Things you don't know about her past. It's not what you think. You might want to hear her side before jumping to conclusions." Jack wanted to lash out, question the man's authority, but instead he sensed an opportunity. "What do you know?" The question came out sharper than he intended. What if there was more to Clara's story than he realized? Every instinct told him to preserve his anger, but the potential for discovery opened a door Jack hesitated to push through. Clara took a breath, the tension in her shoulders subtly relaxing as she prepared to speak. "I wanted to protect you from all this," she said softly. "But you deserve the truth, Jack." In that moment, the world around him faded. The diner, the chatter, the sizzling of the bacon all but disappeared. It was just Jack, Clara, and the stranger who threatened their newfound equilibrium. "How deep does this go, Clara? Were you ever really safe from this?" Jack's voice wavered, both imploring and desperate. Here lay the crux of their relationship, the balance between love and trust. Clara's gaze was unwavering, her lips parted as if summoning the courage to disclose secrets that had long been chained within her. "I made choices. Choices to survive. But I'm not that person anymore." Jack's heart raced. He could feel the weight of these decisions shaping their future. Was love enough to weather this revelation? He needed to know what she was truly capable of, how much growth had been forged in her struggles, and what they could build together moving forward. "Then show me," he said, his voice hushed but filled with intent. "Let's confront this together." As tension hung thick between them, Jack felt a shift within himself, a growing belief that understanding trumped fear. The weight of the stranger's presence loomed ominously, not just a specter of Clara's past, but a pathway toward healing and growth. The door swung shut behind the stranger as if sealing their fate. Clara looked at Jack, her eyes now shimmering with a mixture of trepidation and hope. The uncharted territory ahead was filled with potential for transformation, yet unknown dangers lingered just beneath the surface. The thin line between love and betrayal had begun to weaken, but the deep uncertainty of their future remained. Jack breathed deeply, sensing the heaviness of the moment mixed with the resolve to face whatever lay ahead. With the storm clouds gathering, Jack realized the time had come to confront not just Clara's past but his own fears. What would emerge from the shadows of truth and compassion? The answers hung tantalizingly within reach, enticing him toward an inevitable reckoning. Jack's mind whirled, caught between his protective instincts and the suffocating weight of the emotions surrounding him. The diner buzzed with life, yet he felt like an outsider in his own reality, as if he were watching the scene unfold from afar. Clara's reassurance clung to him, but the dread woven into the stranger's words gnawed at his confidence. He was about to uncover the truth about Clara, but would it liberate them or lead him into a darker abyss? "Clara, I need to know everything," he said, barely above a whisper while keeping his gaze locked on hers. The determination in his voice surprised even him. It was as if the roots of his conviction were deepening, absorbing the chaos around him. Clara nodded, each moment of silence stretching like elastic. Against the fabric of uncertainty, her courage shined brighter. Let's go outside. It's better if we talk in private. The suggestion shocked Jack. The idea of leaving the diner felt like abandoning their sanctuary amidst the storm. The safety of familiar faces, the warm comfort of coffee was no match for the looming darkness, but he swallowed hard, silently agreeing. Perhaps facing the stranger was necessary. Perhaps it was the only way to reclaim their new life. They stepped into the cool air. Jack's heart thudded as they approached the awaiting figure. The stranger's eyes gleamed with a mixture of malice and amusement, a wolf sizing up its prey. Jack's former fears battled with his protective instincts. Clara stood by him, but her posture revealed uncertainty that did not go unnoticed. "Jack," Clara said, her voice steady but quiet, "I promise you this won't change how I feel for you. I've accepted my past." His pulse quickened at her declaration, the layers of vulnerability unfolding. "Have you really? Or do you think by confronting him you can finally escape it?" Despite the tenderness in his heart for her, doubt crept into his thoughts. It was now or never. The question hung in the air like a fragile thread. "I need to confront it, Jack. For me. For us. It's time." There was an oasis of certainty in her voice now, awakening something deep within him as well. "Then let's do this," Jack replied, feeling the resolve solidify in his core. He turned his attention to the stranger, whose smirk faltered, replaced by a dormant intensity. The air was charged as they stood toe-to-toe, a confrontation not just against Clara's past but against the demons that haunted Jack himself. "I don't know what you want, but if you think you can scare us," Jack began, the venom in his tone surprising him. "You've got another thing coming." The stranger laughed, a hollow sound that echoed painfully in their tense silence. "Oh, you're already scared. But it's not me you should fear." He gestured toward Clara, an unfurling threat that sent chills down Jack's spine. "She's the one with the past. You're just a bystander in her story. Wouldn't you want to know exactly what you've signed up for?" Jack's thoughts spiraled. He had been so focused on protecting her, yet what if Clara was holding back? What if her past was a cavern of betrayal and lies? "Enough games," Jack snapped, stepping closer, unable to suppress the wellspring of frustration bubbling inside. "Say what you need to say and get it over with." "Fine," the stranger demanded, his confidence unwavering. Clara's choices defined her survival, but they also led her to betray trust. You think you know her, but you don't. You think love is enough, but can it withstand the truth? A shadow seemed to darken Jack's heart, a fear of betrayal blooming within. He was poised at the brink, a decision hovered before him. Would he cling to the fragmented image of trust he possessed, or plunge into the chaos of unknown revelations? Clara reached for his hand, grounding him, and smiled, albeit tentatively. "I will show you who I truly am. I owe you that much." With one final lingering look at the stranger, Jack fought to strip away his fear as raw determination uncoiled within him. This journey was his as much as hers. They were bound by choices yet to come, yet between them lay a chasm that needed bridging. As they stood together, hand in hand, Jack realized that facing the unknown was essential. He clenched his jaw, ready for whatever truth awaited them. The storm was gaining strength, but so was he. Their confrontation was not just with the stranger. It was a test of love and trust that could redefine them both. "Let's go," Jack urged, his heart pounding as they retreated into the din of the diner, ready to unearth the truth lingering in Clara's past. But as they approached the booth again, an unsettling silence fell. The stranger grinned, eyes glinting with knowledge that neither could ignore. What truths awaited them, and would the frayed threads of their love withstand the pull of revelation? The atmosphere shifted as Jack and Clara re-entered the diner, leaving the stark confrontation with the stranger behind them. Yet he could still feel its weight pressing down upon them. Their sanctuary now felt tainted, memories of laughter and warmth fading into an echo of uncertainty. Clara's presence next to him was both a comfort and a reminder of the obstacles looming ahead. Jack's mind raced as they settled back into their booth. The diner came alive around them once more, laughter and clinking silverware contrasting sharply against the turmoil brewing within. He absently stirred his coffee, the dark liquid swirling in chaotic patterns. How well did he truly know Clara? Was love enough to bridge the chasm of hidden truths, or were they merely dancing on the precipice of reckoning? Jack, Clara broke the silence, her tone tentative yet determined. I want to tell you everything. You deserve the truth, and I'm ready to face it. He nodded, his heart racing with apprehension. Okay, where do we start? Clara took a deep breath. The air trembled between them. My past. It's messy. I tried to leave it behind, but it seems it caught up with me. The stranger you met. He's part of a chapter I thought was closed. She hesitated, her eyes searching his. What you heard was just the surface. It goes deeper. Jack leaned forward, instinctively protecting her from the weight of her own history. You don't have to share anything you're not ready for. I just want to understand. She shook her head, her determination rising like a tide. But that's just it. I've spent too long letting fear dictate my life. It's time to be honest, even if it scares me. The courage in her voice ignited something in Jack. He felt like he was standing at a crossroads, one path leading to deeper understanding, the other to uncertainty and potential heartbreak. I'm here with you, Clara. Whatever it is, I want to face it together. With a faint smile, she continued. Before I moved here, I made choices driven by desperation. They led me to people I shouldn't have trusted. I got involved in things that put me at risk, and when I tried to escape that life, I burned bridges I never meant to. The stranger is someone who doesn't want those bridges to remain burned. He's a reminder of my past mistakes. Jack felt a twist of anger at the thought of someone threatening the woman he loved, yet he understood this burden was hers to carry. What do you mean by reminder? What does he want? He wants revenge. He feels wronged by the way I walked away. It's complicated. Her voice trembled, and Jack reached out instinctively, encircling her hand with his. He could see the fear in her eyes, a reflection of the shadows swirling in his own mind. What exactly does he think he can achieve? Jack questioned, his protective instincts sharpening. Is he a danger to us? There's a possibility, she admitted, her voice lowering as if the mere acknowledgement could draw the threat closer. But we can't let fear rule our lives. If I confront my past openly, I can reclaim my future. The determination in her voice sparked something in Jack, a newfound resolve. Then let's confront him together. I won't let you fight this alone. As Jack spoke, a calmness washed over him, pushing back against the tide of uncertainty. He felt a surge of strength, not just as a protector, but as an equal partner in this journey. They were bound, not just by love, but by a shared commitment to face whatever truth awaited. Yet as Clara's determination shined through, doubt still lingered in the corners of Jack's mind. What if confronting her past proved too much? What if darkness consumed the future they dreamed of? From across the diner he glimpsed the stranger's silhouette casting a long shadow. The encounter felt inevitable, a storm brewing on the horizon. They would have to face him sooner or later. The question was how and when. Tonight, Clara whispered with unwavering courage. Jack knew then what he needed to do. Prepare himself not just to support Clara, but to confront his own fears as well. As they shared a resolute look, Jack realized they were stepping into uncharted waters. The night ahead promised revelations, and with it, the potential to redefine everything they had come to cherish. But as they prepared to step into the unknown, Jack wondered, would they emerge victorious, or was this a fight that would shatter their fragile connection forever? The diner dimmed, the neon signs flickering in the gathering dusk, casting an eerie glow on Jack's resolute face. The clock ticked on, each second pushing them closer to that inevitable confrontation. Jack's heart raced, anticipation mingling with dread. Tonight would unravel much more than Clara's past. It would reveal parts of himself he had yet to confront. Leaving the booth felt like stepping onto a battlefield. He glanced at Clara, whose expression reflected his own trepidation interlaced with determination. She was ready to combat the ghosts of her former life, and, in that moment, he realized that this fight was not merely hers to wage, it was a test for both of them. The intimacy they shared demanded that he evolve beyond the role of the comforting partner and become an active participant in their shared journey. "Let's head out," he suggested, trying to infuse his voice with the confidence he lacked. With every step toward the door, Jack felt the actual stakes crystallizing in his mind. Confrontation often sharpened personal resolve. It illuminated hidden fears and ignited hidden strengths. As they stepped outside, the air carried a chill that bit at their skin. The streetlights flickered overhead, resembling unwelcome specters marking the beginning of their descent into uncertainty. The odds felt stacked against them, yet Clara's unwavering composure was a beacon. "Do you know where he might be?" Jack asked, his gaze scanning their empty surroundings for any sign of the looming figure that haunted Clara's past. "He'll be at the old warehouse by the river where it all started for me." Clara's voice was firm, but Jack could sense the weight behind it, a mixture of fear and the determination to face what had condemned her. Jack clenched his fists, activating a mental switch within him. What had started as fear transformed into an aptitude for courage. He resolved to support Clara not from a place of sympathy but of partnership, an ally ready to combat whatever darkness lay ahead. As they approached the warehouse, a rundown structure that seemed to embody Clara's troubled past, Jack felt his breath quicken. This was not simply a facade of bricks and mortar. It represented everything they were fighting against. The air was thick with expectation, and he considered this moment as more than a confrontation. It was a crucible that would test not just Clara, but him as well. "Jack," Clara said, her voice steady but faint, "promise me you won't let your anger take over when you see him. This is my battle. I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" he echoed, momentarily taken aback. "Clara, I trust you with my life. But I won't stand by while someone threatens you. That's not an option. Just remember, this isn't about revenge. It's about reclaiming my life," she emphasized, her eyes gleaming with an urgency that resonated deep within him. Walking closer, Jack acknowledged the depths of his own baggage. He had always been driven by the desire to protect, but sometimes that instinct could morph into fury. Would he be able to balance those forces in this volatile moment? The inner voice whispering warnings became louder. He needed to focus not just on Clara's past but his own doubts. The warehouse loomed ahead, like a vulture waiting to pick at the bones of their story. They stepped inside, the ambiance thick with the musty scent of neglect. Jack took a steadying breath, mentally preparing himself for the confrontation. As if on cue, a shadow detached from the darkness at the far end of the warehouse. Jack's pulse quickened as the figure stepped into the dim light. There he was, the specter of Clara's past, a tangible reminder of choices made and consequences endured. Jack felt the air charge with tension, the precarious equilibrium between him and Clara hanging in a fragile balance. In that crucial moment, he realized the weight of the challenge ahead was not just to confront the memory haunting Clara, but to confront himself, the man he aspired to be for her. Clara spoke up, bravely addressing the newcomer. Jack's protective instincts flared, but he tempered them with an awareness he had cultivated. It was time to transform his instinctive response into a thoughtful action. As words flew defiantly between Clara and the stranger, Jack found himself standing on the precipice of much more than just a confrontation. Would he be able to navigate this turbulent moment? Or would it unravel everything? The air trembled with possibility, and Jack felt the cracks in their connection teetering on the edge of disaster. Whatever happened next, he was certain that each choice made tonight would redefine not just their future, but the very essence of who they were becoming. Jack stood frozen, the air thick with tension as Clara and the figure exchanged words. The warehouse, with its peeling paint and shattered windows, echoed their voices, amplifying every accusation, every pleading word. Jack's instincts screamed for him to step in, to shield her from whatever emotional onslaught was unraveling before them. He took a steadying breath, reminding himself that this was Clara's moment to reclaim her narrative. His role was to support, not overshadow. He observed as Clara faced the man who had cast a shadow over her life, her body tense yet resolved. Jack had always admired her strength, but this was a different plane of confrontation. It was raw, unvarnished, a confrontation that tore through the facade of their lives and ripped open the wounds left by betrayal and fear. His mind raced, anxieties tracing dark lines around the edges of his thoughts. Could he hold his anger in check long enough to allow Clara to speak? The shadowy figure taunted her, an almost palpable wave of disdain radiating from him. Anger swelled within Jack, an instinct honed through years of protecting those he cared about. But he stifled it, focusing instead on the determination rising in Clara's voice. "You think you can intimidate me any longer? You've lost that power," Clara declared, her voice steady despite the tremor that betrayed a depth of emotion beneath the surface. Jack felt a swell of pride as she faced her tormentor, but unease nagged at him. The hurt she concealed was immense, and he could sense the wall she had built around her heart beginning to quake. "Power? You never had it, Clara. You were just a pawn in my game." He sneered, arrogance dripping from each syllable as if to remind them both of the toxic history that clouded this moment. Jack clenched his fists, the flames of his protective instincts roaring anew. His earlier resolve was dangerously close to fragmenting, and that made him question his ability to maintain his composure. This wasn't just about Clara. It was about him grappling with his own past, learning to harness the bitter anger that had often driven his actions. Amid the words of vitriol, Clara's vulnerability seeped through and Jack's heart ached for her. He could see the flickering light of her resolve, the way she momentarily faltered when faced with memories of her past. In that instant, he realized that his role wasn't solely to confront this monster beside her. It was also to uplift her, to remind Clara of her strength, and in doing so, strengthen himself. Rooting himself deeper into the moment, he took a step forward, a silence solidifying around him as he spoke. "This isn't a game anymore. Clara's not the weak link you remember. She's stronger than you'll ever comprehend." The words felt foreign, leaving his lips yet illuminating. He was not just defending Clara, he was also discovering aspects of his own character, speaking not out of rage, but out of truth. For the first time, Clara glanced at him, her eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and gratitude. It was a transformative moment. Together, they were forging a new reality, one where the past didn't dictate their future. As the tension shifted, Jack felt the weight of decision pressing down upon him again. The specter standing before them was not merely a haunted figure from Clara's past. He represented the unresolved trauma that lay beneath the surface of both their souls. The confrontation escalated, and as Clara began to reclaim her truth, Jack stood resolute by her side. Would their united front be enough to extinguish the threat, or would they find themselves engulfed in the flames of their past? Just as victory seemed tantalizingly close, the figure's demeanor shifted, a dark grin spreading across his face. "You think you can take back what's mine? Let's see how far you've really come, Clara. This isn't just about you anymore. You'll both pay for what you've done." Jack's heart sank, the line between resolution and chaos blurring before him as he felt a seismic shift in the air. Would they emerge unscathed, or was this only the prologue to a deeper reckoning with everything they had yet to face? The taunting laughter hung in the air, a chilling reminder of their shared history, dredging up memories that Jack had tried to help Clara escape. Time seemed to freeze as the weight of the figure's words settled heavily around them. Jack could hear Clara's shallow breaths, the tremors of uncertainty rippling beneath her strong exterior. The resolute facade she had managed to maintain in the midst of turmoil began to crack. Clara turned her gaze back to Jack, her eyes blazing with a mixture of fear and defiance. It was a silent plea for him to remain by her side. He could almost hear her thoughts echoing in the space between them. This was more than just a confrontation with a physical adversary. It was a battle against the remnants of self-doubt, the ghosts of their pasts. In that moment of charged silence, Jack could feel the frantic pounding of his heart. He understood now that this was Clara's turning point. It wasn't merely a matter of confronting the man who had oppressed her. It was an invitation for Jack to confront the parts of himself that had been stifled under the weight of his protective instincts. He realized the dual necessity of this moment, to stand firm not only for Clara, but to reclaim parts of his own humanity that had been lost long ago. "I won't let you control her anymore," he stated, his tone a clear warning. With those words, he felt a shift within himself. This wasn't just about defending someone else's honor, but establishing his own values. Jack recognized that his strength lay not in his ability to fight but in the steadfast support he provided. He was no longer just the protector, but also an ally in Clara's fight for autonomy. The figure took a half step back, momentarily thrown by Jack's unexpected fierceness. Clara seized the opportunity to speak, her voice steady with renewed fortitude. "You may think you own a part of me, but it is not yours to claim anymore. I've grown beyond the person you once directed." Jack's breath caught in his throat. She was no longer the girl lost in the labyrinth of her fears. She was emerging as a woman unwilling to be defined by someone else's narrative. He held on to that moment tightly, a snapshot of Clara's transformation igniting a fire in his own spirit. He recalled the countless times he had battled his demons, realizing he was still on his journey of healing and growth. As Clara stood her ground, Jack found himself reflecting on his own past. He had once been gripped by insecurities, allowing anger to dictate his actions. But in witnessing Clara's evolution, he felt emboldened to confront his own lingering shadows. His journey, intertwined with hers, was not simply about heroics, it was about vulnerability and acceptance. The man's smile faded as Clara's strength began to overshadow his bravado. Jack sensed a pivot in the atmosphere, a shift from the oppressive weight of fear to the buoyant lightness of self-empowerment. Their adversary was losing control, the fear he had once wielded dissipating in the face of their unity. But with the figure's retreat came a new threat that simmered just beneath the surface. "You think you've won? This is far from over. I will ensure you both understand the true meaning of loss," he snarled, his voice a venomous whisper that crawled under Jack's skin. Clara tightened her grip, casting a sidelong glance at Jack. It occurred to him that this was more than a confrontation. It demanded a commitment to understanding the depth of their journey, to navigate the treacherous terrain of their intertwined pasts. Jack's heart raced. He could see the challenge faced by Clara reflected in his own eyes. They had sparked something monumental, but the threads of their past remained complicated and fragile. "We must prepare," he murmured, fear tangling curiously with hope. They had withstood the first clash, but the war ahead was uncharted, unpredictable. Jack felt the stakes rising, a whispering urgency compelling him to acknowledge the reality. They couldn't afford to falter now. The jagged edge of confrontation lingered in the space, and Jack knew the coming trials would test not only their resolve, but the very core of who they were becoming. What lay ahead would reveal the true depths of their growth and the lengths they were willing to fight for their future. But as Clara's grip tightened around his, he felt that they were no longer just carrying their burdens alone. They were poised to embark on a path that would demand everything from them both. The true reckoning was yet to come, and the moment of truth lingered ominously on the horizon. Jack stood shoulder to shoulder with Clara, their backs against the looming threat as they both braced for the confrontation that awaited. His mind raced as he tried to process the weight of their new reality. The tension hung thick in the air, but he felt a flicker of determination igniting within him, unwavering in its insistence. They had unearthed a battle far deeper than mere physical confrontation. It was about rediscovering themselves. "Do you remember what we spoke about back in the park?" Clara's voice was low but steady. "We talked about finding our strength, unlocking the potential that fear has kept hidden." Her words echoed in Jack's mind, piercing through the chaos of the moment. He realized that the conversation they had shared earlier had not just been a fleeting thought. It was a crucial framework for confronting their pasts. He recalled Clara's brave determination, her resolve to reshape her story, and felt compelled to echo that sentiment. "It's our story now, not his," he said, the confidence swirling within him emboldening each word. "He can't write it for us. We define ourselves." Clara's response was immediate, her eyes sparkling with a fierce light. For the first time in a long while, Jack saw her not as the girl needing saving, but as a warrior in her own right. The shared moment of understanding was electric, each of them serving as a mirror reflecting the strength the other had forgotten. With their adversary still lurking, Jack felt the urgency build. They needed to strategize, to prepare themselves mentally and emotionally. "We need to evaluate our resources," he said, shifting his focus to the jumps in his pulse. "What can we use to confront him?" Clara surveyed the alley around them, mapping it out in her mind. She lifted herself slightly, scanning for weaknesses. "I've worked through many strategies in my previous confrontations. Perhaps we can maneuver to turn his mind against him," she declared, the fire in her voice propelling them forward. Jack was struck by Clara's revelation that she possessed tools he had never recognized before. He had seen her physical prowess, her resilience, yet this tactical side of her added a dimension he hadn't anticipated. He began seeing her not just as an equal, but as a formidable partner. "Yes, we can outsmart him. Let's gather intel while keeping our guard up." Clarity washed over him, sharpening the edges of his thinking as he folded her insights into a plan. This was not just about having each other's backs. It was a collaborative effort harnessing their combined strengths. But as his mind wandered, Jack couldn't shake the doubt creeping on the edges of his resolve. What if he targets us in our moment of vulnerability? Our resolve means nothing if we can't recognize our limitations, he cautioned, the darker reminder of their past skimming the surface of his consciousness. Clara shook her head, closing the distance between them once more. "Facing that vulnerability is our greatest strength. I refuse to let the shadows dictate who we are now. If we fail, we'll do it with purpose and pride." Her words struck a chord deep within him, instilling a profound sense of purpose. Jack could feel the fear dissipating, eroded by the solid foundation of trust and mutual respect they were building together. The themes of their past began to intertwine with the fabric of their future, knitted from trials forged in the fires of their coming battles. As they plotted their next move, anticipation surged through Jack. He realized they were not simply responding to a threat. They were on the cusp of shifting the narrative. They had taken the first step toward becoming inch by inch those they had always wanted to be. Yet with every ounce of courage came a reminder: change breeds uncertainty. Just as their partnership flourished, so did the insidious repercussions of their enemies' words. The calm demeanor they wore now was a fragile facade, just waiting to be shattered. "Do you think he'll strike quickly or plot something deeper?" Clara asked, her brow furrowed with concern. "No way to tell," Jack replied, "but we must stay ready." The space they occupied pulsed with tension once more, the stakes rising as much as their confidence had grown. They were walking a fine line, shifting from strength to vulnerability, resilience to doubt. With the battle looming, whispers of their hidden opponent lingered ominously at the edges. The moment of reckoning was still hanging heavy above them, but now the conviction ignited in Jack's heart reassured him that they could begin rewriting the script. Before they took their next step, Jack locked eyes with Clara, acknowledging the journey ahead. They would each have to face their uncharted depths, their willingness to endure, to learn, and to evolve. As the shadows danced in the depths, a creeping realization snaked through the corners of their minds. What if their greatest battles lay not just in the threats that haunted them, but in the choices that would define them individually? "Whatever happens next," Jack stated more to himself than to Clara, "we cannot let fear dictate our actions, or our futures." But would their determination stand firm when faced with the betrayals yet to come? The moment of truth lingered, thickening the air between Jack and Clara. They stood in a fragile unity, their resolve a tapestry woven from vulnerability and newfound strength. Jack's mind raced, and he felt the pull of a truth lurking beneath the surface. "Clara," Jack began, his voice steady yet tinged with a rare urgency, "what if confronting him brings out more than just his weaknesses? What if he tries to unravel the revelations we've just begun to stitch together?" Clara's eyes darkened, recognizing the implications of his words. For a quick second, doubt flickered in Jack's mind, but he shoved it aside. Their past experiences had shown these moments were critical for personal growth, and he couldn't allow fear to drown out the confidence they were building. "I can't help but wonder," he continued slowly, If we understand him better, wouldn't it help to sever the ties that bind us to fear? Yet even as he spoke, a tightness gripped his chest, a worry that he might be venturing too close to the edge of what they could handle. Clara took a step closer, cupping her hands around his. It's not just about defeating him. It's about reclaiming the narratives we lost. By understanding him, we gain agency. We can rewrite everything. Her intensity was infectious, enough to shake him from his paralyzing doubt. The way she conveyed her belief made him feel lighter. Emboldened, bolstered by Clara's words, Jack looked out at the alleyway that would soon host their confrontation, an arena for their burgeoning identities. The location felt less ominous now, more like a ground zero for their transformations, a reminder that they were capable of rising from the ashes. "Let's focus on our plan," Jack said, shifting gears. "You mentioned using strategies from your past." The moment felt pivotal. It wasn't just about surviving the upcoming clash. It was about honing the tools that had become dormant within them, waiting for this very moment to be reignited. Clara nodded, her gaze piercing as she began to lay out the tactics with precision. "First, we need to be aware of psychological manipulation. He thrives on fear. We can turn that against him. If we can anticipate his moves, every facade he puts up can turn into a vulnerability." Jack marveled at her insight. Clara was weaving a strategy, one that spoke to the strengths they had both neglected. The realization hit him hard. Underneath their fear lay an incredible well of potential. They were capable of more than they had believed, and their pasts hadn't shackled them. Instead, they had provided the wisdom needed to navigate this new terrain. "So what's our first move?" he asked, eager to put their plan into action. "We observe him. We let him think he still has control. Then we disrupt his pattern and expose his anxieties, draining the power he assumes he holds over us." As she spoke, Jack felt the energy shift, a palpable hum of purpose rising in the air. It was exhilarating. They were forming a battle plan not just against an adversary but against the very fears that had kept them prisoners in their own lives. Trending down this path of self-discovery, Jack felt the thrill and terror of transformation. Each thought became a stepping stone toward a stronger self, one that stood firmly at the edge of choice, rather than simply responding to the impulse of fear. Yet anxiety still lingered. What if everything they built would come crashing down the moment they faced their foe? "Clara, what if he targets our emotions? Each story we've shared, each revelation." The possibility of vulnerability loomed large, pushing at the margins of his newfound confidence. Clara squeezed his hand tightly. "Then we confront those stories together. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's our greatest strength. The wounds we've survived make us more formidable." As they caught their breaths, Jack's admiration for Clara grew. Her ability to transform past struggles into sources of strength was extraordinary. He realized that their foundation was built on surrender, not to fear, but to shared truth, acceptance, and sound strategy. But as they finalized their preparations, a chilling thought crept into his mind. Would their united front crumble under the weight of their own histories? Or would it stand firm against the trials that loomed ahead, his rising determination mixed with the disquiet of possibility? "Whatever happens next, we'll face it together," he affirmed, half to Clara, half to himself. And just as they began to feel the resolve solidifying, the distant echo of footsteps shattered the fragile calm, a harbinger of the confrontation that awaited. Would they be ready to unravel not just the threat outside, but also the tangled threads of their own identities? The echo of footsteps grew louder, reverberating around the warehouse like a war drum. Jack felt a renewed pulse of determination surge within him, a signal that their moment had finally arrived. With Clara by his side, he was no longer the man crippled by uncertainty, but one ready to confront the demons of their past, both his and hers. As they positioned themselves against a wall readying for the inevitable confrontation, Clara's grip tightened. "Remember what we talked about. This is about reclaiming our power, not just exposing his weaknesses." Her voice was resolute, anchoring him to the present. "Right. Together, we expose the truth," Jack affirmed, each word forged in the heat of newfound resolve. "We let him think he has the upper hand, and then we turn the tables. Just as they had strategized, the stranger materialized from the shadows, his presence a jarring reminder of all that Clara had fought to escape. "Well, well," he sneered. "Look who finally found her courage. Too late, I'm afraid." Jack's anger flared momentarily, but he smothered it, focusing instead on the plan Clara had laid out. They were prepared to confront this man not just in body but in spirit. They were ready to reclaim the narrative that had almost torn them apart. "Isn't it funny how the roles have reversed?" Clara began, her voice steady and unwavering, pushing Jack to embody that confidence beside her. "You think you own me, but I'm here to tell you that I'm done being your pawn." The stranger scoffed, an arrogant glint flashing in his eyes. "You've got guts, I'll give you that. But this is just the beginning. You think facing me will erase your past? You think you can completely liberate yourself?" Jack stepped forward, the fire within him burning brightly. "We're not here to erase anything. We're here to face our story, to confront you for what you've done." His voice was firm, no longer trembling under the weight of fear, but resonating with the power of someone who had found their footing. As tensions escalated and words flew back and forth, Jack could feel Clara's transformation take shape. She stood firm and unyielding, no longer shackled by fear or regret. Her strength raised to meet the challenge head-on, igniting a powerful flame of radical honesty and liberation. It was invigorating. "What do you think you can accomplish?" the stranger challenged, his bravado faltering under the pressure of their united front. "Your words mean nothing. I still hold the threads of your past." "What you hold is a fragment of who I used to be." Clara shot back, her eyes ablaze with determination. "And tonight I sever those ties once and for all." The revelation hung in the air, a palpable moment of collective defiance. Jack could see the shadows wrapping around Clara's past begin to fray, as if the truths she had long hidden were being unveiled in the light of her newfound confidence. It was beautiful, and he felt empowered by it. Together they'd shed the burdens of the past and emerged into a future defined by their choices, not by their circumstances. But the stranger wasn't done. "You really think this ends here? You're playing with fire." His voice deepened, infused with a threatening undertone, reminding Jack that danger was not just an abstract idea. "I'm ready to be burned," Clara replied fiercely, the words laced with conviction. "Because I know I can rise from the ashes." With each passing moment, Jack could feel the solidifying bond between them. They were both shedding layers of self-doubt, acknowledging the weight they had carried, and realizing it was time to redefine everything that had been said. No longer were they victims, they were survivors. Jack grasped Clara's hand, their unity a silent declaration of both trust and support. Together, they were not just confronting their past, but embracing their growth, becoming agents of their destiny. "I stand with Clara. We are no longer defined by shadows or threats," Jack declared, stepping forward with renewed strength. "We are here to rediscover ourselves in clarity, honesty, and the power of truth." The stranger's bravado began to crack beneath the pressure of their resolve. Jack saw the realization flicker across the man's face, his intimidation failing under the weight of their union. This confrontation was no longer just about defeating one person. It was a collective act of reclaiming their identities, their choices. "You may think you can control Clara's narrative, but she gets the last word," Jack said, his voice echoing with newfound authority. "And it's time for your chapter to end." As the tension unraveled, Jack sensed the strike of hope infusing the air. Clara's transformation was not just personal. It had birthed a newfound strength within him as well. They had faced the specters of their pasts, and while uncertainties lingered, they had earned the right to cultivate their future. "No more hiding, no more running," Clara affirmed, echoing his sentiments, her voice tinged with triumph. Jack's heart surged with pride as he witnessed her unfurling courage. Together, they became a force of nature. They were moving forward, not just for themselves but as individuals transformed through the trials they had faced. The shadows that had once intimidated them gave way to the light of self-acknowledgement and unwavering resolve. Jack and Clara stepped closer, unified against the adversary, refusing to let fear write the next pages of their shared story. With every heartbeat he knew they would emerge victorious, not simply as a couple overcoming challenges, but as individuals who had conquered aspects of themselves once shackled by doubt. They were ready to turn the page into a recomposed narrative, signing their story with the indelible ink of truth and resilience. Jack inhaled deeply, his voice steady. This ends now. And just like that, they stepped forward, hand in hand, emerging resolutely into the fog of the unknown ahead, ready to script a new beginning fueled by the audacity of their love. As the weight of their forgotten memories lingered in the air, Jack felt that they were poised to rise beyond the confines of their past, unearthing the triumphs buried within the chaos. Clara's laughter echoed, illuminating the dark corners with light, an affirmation that the long journey ahead would be shaped by their choices, courage, and the richness of their love. This was more than a conclusion. It was a beginning steeped in newfound potential, an alliance grounded in trust, blooming in the fertile soil of understanding. For Jack, this was the true essence of strength, wielded individually, yet cultivating a profound unity, an unstoppable force, ready to challenge the future one step at a time. Now, as the echoes of their pasts faded into whispers, the horizon ahead shimmered with possibilities. Everyone deserves the same opportunity for empowerment and growth. If you believe in redefining narratives, now is the time to send that support out. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.